The year was 2020, the pandemic got us all locked in our homes with absolutely nothing to do but grind out the brand new Call of Duty on the block, Modern Warfare 2019. A visually beautiful, gritty, and realistic reboot of a beloved past title that, despite its many flaws, I was absolutely addicted to. And so were many of my friends, though while they were playing peak Warzone on Verdansk or grinding Damascus camo on Shipment, there was one multiplayer mode that was completely new to the franchise that I just couldn't stay away from. This mode, the perfect hybrid of that immersive military simulator feel while still being fast-paced and action-packed enough to keep my brain-rotted mind's attention, a mode that rewarded precision gameplay and situational awareness while still encouraging run-and-gun style gameplay rather than camping, well, as much as MW 2019 could, anyways. This one mode, forgotten and abandoned by every Call of Duty to release since, and one that I dearly miss, Realism. Now, if you haven't played it or forgotten what this mode was, I don't blame you, as it was tucked away hidden in dozens of menus for most of this game's lifecycle, and it wasn't exactly everyone's cup of tea. The Realism mode sought to blend the two most popular gameplay guidelines in multiplayer COD, the core and the hardcore rule set. Core featured a complex HUD with all the information you'd ever need, and a higher player health pool to encourage player movement, but for those who wanted a more realistic mode with a focus on map awareness and Twitch reaction time, there was the hardcore mode, with a limited HUD and reduced player health. These two modes have been and still are cooked into the very DNA of multiplayer in Call of Duty. Hell, we all have that one friend who only plays hardcore or who only plays core. Realism took the limited HUD, map awareness, and Twitch shooting of hardcore, but placed it in a core rule set environment with higher player health pool to avoid punishing that run and gun playstyle and allow for skilled counterplay. Though one little trick that changed this mode up and ensured skill was rewarded and not stifled was the one-hit kill headshots. Realism was supposed to be the perfect middle ground to blend these two modes together, a compromise that both hardcore and core players would love. Unfortunately, this vision never really panned out in the grand scheme of Call of Duty, and it was left here, abandoned, hidden in the menus of MW 2019. Let me just start by saying I may be a little biased as I absolutely loved this mode back in the day. Call of Duty 2019 was a very campy game in general. It was one of the biggest complaints surrounding the title upon its release, and while you might think a limited HUD might encourage people to camp, much like hardcore does, I actually saw less campers in this mode than in other MP modes. The higher player health pool meant people weren't afraid to run around and engage in gunfights like they were in hardcore, for example. Mix that with the one-shot headshot mechanic and you could really excel in this mode. It made it so that even if you were caught off guard by someone who was camping, you could always whip around and click their head before they get the chance to finish you off if you were skilled enough. This counterplay made it so that good players were actually rewarded rather than nerfed like they were in the base game. Now yes, your enemy may get the occasional lucky shot on your head while hip firing, but that rare unlucky death was well worth the risk if it meant I was able to one-tap my enemies while they struggled to put me down with body shots. And while we're here on the topic of gameplay, this one-shot headshot mechanic did something that I really loved for the overall weapon viability in this game. Another big complaint MW 2019 received often was that the weapon meta was simply overpowering. If you weren't using the M4A1 or the MP5 or the 725 or any of those top picks, you were going to have a very difficult time in this game. This overpowering weapon meta really made the game feel stale for a lot of people, as players felt forced to use these few meta picks just to keep their head above water despite the huge variety of weapons that we had to choose from. In Realism though, it wasn't the weapon that earned you the high KD, it was you and you alone. If you had the aim, the awareness, the skill, you could whoop the ass of any meta slave in this mode with any weapon you choose. Hell, even sidearms were exceptionally lethal in the hands of skilled players. In fact, one of my favorite pastimes back in 2019 multiplayer was to use only handguns and go John Wick mode, clicking heads like crazy. This opened up an entirely new realm of potential weapons and builds that just simply weren't viable in the other modes. This variety is what kept me playing this game for a long time. This next point is going to sound a little ironic as it actually relies on the hidden nature of this mode. The low player population actually made it more fun, and let me explain why. Obviously, a massive issue that a lot of people have with Call of Duty both then and now is skill-based matchmaking. The aggressive and unrelenting nature of SBMMN back in 2019 made every game feel like it was rigged, sometimes in your favor, but most of the time not.
Oh wow, that was...
What the fuck? This aggressive skill-based matchmaking felt soul-crushing, as a lot of your time in this game was spent getting shit on in these player-dubbed punishment lobbies that the SBMM would throw you in. This felt like you were being punished for playing well, though in Realism, the grasp of skill-based matchmaking was actually noticeably reduced. The low player population meant SBMM had to loosen up a little to ensure that you would find a match in time. This made it feel like the older Call of Duties in the sense that each lobby's overall skill level was random and not rigged. This means if you were an above average player, you would perform above average. No gimmicks and no tricks. Skill-based matchmaking couldn't pick and choose who to place you up against and rig the outcome of every game, otherwise you would simply never find a match. Connection was king because it had to be. Now let's talk about a more obvious benefit to this mode, that's superior immersion. A big complaint of a lot of these newer CODs like BO6 or Vanguard was simply how goofy, gamey, and for lack of a better term, Fortnite-esque they feel. Especially Black Ops 6 with its countless goofy crossovers and gamey mechanics, it feels more like a Fortnite creative mode than a mainline Call of Duty game. Looking back on MW 2019, a lot of people miss its immersive and realistic aesthetic. Sure, it had the occasional anime tracer pack, but for the most part, this game felt real somehow. Like a milsim shooter, but still retained that fast, action-packed gameplay. And nowhere else was this immersive, tactical, gritty, grounded in realistic visual and gameplay on display more than in the aptly named Realism mode. I mean, just look at this gameplay. Compared to your average Black Ops 6 match, which one feels more mature to you? Which one looks like it has more of a unique identity and a theme? Realism really puts you in the shoes of the soldier that you're playing. Every kill you got, every bullet you fired, it felt impactful. Now, obviously, a lot of this is owed to MW 2019's superior graphics, tone, and sound design, but no other mode showed off these strengths like Realism did. Not only was Realism fun to play, but it was the most immersive and visually impressive. Well, after hearing all that, it sounds pretty damn good, right? So why did it ultimately fail? Unfortunately, I think the failure of this mode boils down to two main points. One was its hidden nature and skill curve, the lack of marketing, hiding it deep in the menus, as well as the little information given to the player as to how exactly the mode even worked at all. The skill ceiling was quite high, so as a new player stepping into the mode, it was likely that you didn't quite understand it and felt powerless against those who did, leading to low player retention. Most didn't take the time to actually learn and overcome this mode's unique challenges. And the second main point is how this mode was rolled out to the community. MW 2019 did not have a hardcore mode at launch, which is very odd for the series. Realism was actually released before hardcore, meaning it was seen as kind of a replacement for the mode by the community, which it definitely is not. Hardcore players tried it and then promptly abandoned it because it wasn't their experience that they were used to. Hardcore, of course, was later added down the road, but it should have been there first, not after Realism. This way, it would have appeased the hardcore crowd first and set realistic expectations for what Realism actually is. In conclusion, I really loved this mode, and during some of my research, I've seen quite a few posts online from others sharing that same grievance at its abandonment. I would really love to see this mode return in the upcoming Modern Warfare 4, especially if the series is going to be returning to its more mature tone and identity, much like the 2019 reboot did. Like I said at the start though, it isn't everyone's cup of tea, so if you were one of the players who hated it, comment down below why you disliked it. And if you have any other points or things to add to the discussion, I'd love to hear it in the comments as well. Thank you for watching, and have a fantastic day.